Clear prop.
Tower 73, Yankee number 2, following twin traffic, 3 mile final, clear passenger. 1 Charlie Bravo, makes straight in runway 25, join 4 mile final.
This is Behind the Prop with United Flight Systems owner and licensed pilot Bobby Doss and his co-host, Major Airline Captain and Designated Pilot Examiner Wally Mulhern. Now let's go Behind the Prop.
What's up, Wally?
Hey, Bobby, how are you?
I am fantastic as always. This week, a spin on a check ride episode, but it's going to be what happens after the episode. This episode's titled Beyond the Check Ride, Building Real World Pilot Judgment. I think it's something that I'm still learning. I'm assuming a veteran like you has got a million examples, but we hear it all the time. The private pilot certificate is truly your certificate to continue your learning. I still have goosebumps most days where I hear things in the hallway about people trying something or wanting to take a flight when maybe they shouldn't. Wally, how real is it that you're the guy that's meeting thousands of applicants? What is the mindset of a private applicant when they get that piece of paper that's signed to be signed? What is it like? What do you think they're thinking about?
I think they're thinking tomorrow I'm going to start flying instrument approaches, and I find it frustrating, but a lot of the programs are programmed that way. You finish your private, and tomorrow we start instrument training, and there's no real time to use that skill. You know, it's like learning a sport and okay, let's take golf. You're a golfer. You know, there are many aspects to playing golf. There's putting, there's driving, there's chipping, there's the iron game, and it's like we start on the driving range hitting a ball with a driver, and we hit it, and we hit it, we hit it, and then and maybe that's a bad example. Let's say we start with a putter. We learn how to putt and we get decent at it. Well, now we're going to learn how to use the driver. Well, still got to use that putter
Mhm.
because unless you hit a hole in one or you hit it with the iron, of all the holes of golf you played, Bobby, how many of those holes, what percentage have you putted on?
100%. Well, I have chipped in a few times, Wally, so we'll
Okay.
say 99.6%.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so we go from, you have that 10 hours of solo time in your logbook, maybe 10.1, 10.2, assuming you're at a Part 61 school. And, if you got your 5 hours of solo cross country, you've filled all the boxes. Now you're going to go fly for over 40 hours, or well, 40 hours of instrument time with your instructor sitting in the other seat. But because you're a private pilot, you're going to log it as pilot and command time. And it's really not pilot and command time. I'll maybe get some feedback from this, but if you have some disagreements, feel free to email me at wally@behindtheprop.com, and I'd love to talk about it. But come on, we log it as pilot and command time, but you're really not pilot and command.
Yeah, it's a crazy thought process, but the real decisions, the real judgment begins when you're all alone. You are certified, and it's your turn to be truly the pilot in command. And I think that's the mindset or where we came up with this topic, right? And we're going to break this episode down into 3 parts like we always do. Recognizing the decision points is part 1. Part 2 is tools for better decision making. And then part 3 is going to be learning from real incidents and real stories. And our friend Paul Craig has wrote many books on this stuff, but we're going to talk through some of the good, the bad, and really just what you can learn from. So let's jump right in. Recognizing decision points. I don't think I had any idea. I'll tell you how my story went. And I was a hobbyist. I had no idea I'd ever own a flight school. I had no idea I would maybe fly a jet one day. My mindset was family pilot, get my certificate, take one of my friends or family members up as soon as I got it. So I passed my check ride. think she was scared to death, but my wife joined me on my first flight, Wally, and we kinda tooled around some of our friends' houses over off the Grand Parkway, probably did some what I thought was steep turns at 3,000 feet while they took pictures, right? I was so afraid to get below 2,000 feet because I didn't wanna break any rules over populated areas and stuff. I mean, I really didn't know any of that stuff like I do today, but we got in a plane, we took off, we went out there, and we came back, and I felt like a professional pilot, man. It was all by myself. No one was there to help me. I made the decisions on the weather. But what about that? Well, that happened to be perfect weather that day, but and a prize package with me and my wife, right? The mindset changes drastically when you're all alone. And I think the big key that I want to talk about is how many decisions do you think private pilots are making prior to that 70th hour, maybe ish, when they're going on their own? How many times do you think they really got to the airport and said, this weather is good enough for me to go?
I don't think very many.
And it's a dichotomy of what we do in this training world, right? I don't know how to blame myself. I own a flight school. I don't know how to blame me. We try to enforce pre-flight actions as much as we can, but what do you think some of the things are that our flight instructors are thinking about for us that we aren't thinking about as young student pilots coming to the airport wanting to go fly? No one wants to stay on the ground, so we're gonna go, hopefully,
Right.
and I go to my instructor and say, "Are we going? Are we going?" I know today it was like 25 gust and 40 in Houston. I bet every student showed up saying, "Are we gonna be able to go?"
Right.
What are CFIs thinking about that we're not thinking about as student pilots?
Well, I think as a CFI, what you to for somebody to learn how to make decisions, they have to make decisions. I mean, what a novel concept, right? To be a quarterback, at some point, you got to get put the person in the game and let them see what they can do. Um, and I think we don't let our students make a lot of the decisions. And I think maybe I've given this example once, but I hopped in the airplane. Outside the airplane. We were in a Cherokee, so it had one door, and I was outside the airplane, and the applicant was in. He got in the left seat, and the nose wheel on the airplane was chocked, and so I'm waiting for him to come out and get the chocks, and he looks at me and he says, "You ready to go?" I said, "Yeah, I'm ready." He says, "Well, come on in." I said, "Well," I'm thinking to myself, "Well, oh, okay, I'll get in." So I get in and, he briefs me and we're getting ready to go, and I'm thinking, "Well, alright, well, we'll see what happens." Well, about that time, one of the line guys comes out and starts waving at the applicant, and my guy just he waves back at him. And I kind of gave him the "I don't know what's going on" kinda sign to the line guy. He walked away. A little while later, another guy and a student were walking out to another airplane, and they walked kinda close to ours, and they waved at him and kinda pointed at the front of the airplane, and my guy just waved back. A little while later, someone drove by in a car. Now, all this is happening in a period of about 2 minutes. Someone who drove by in a car and stopped in front of us and waved at us and was pointing at the front of the airplane. And my applicant said to me, "Wow, everybody's friendly today. They must know I'm on a check ride." And I just kind of snickered at him a little bit. Well, we started the airplane and he pushed the power up and he looked at me and he said, "Oh, expletive. Now I know why everybody was waving at me." So, what do you do? He got out and he pulled the chocks out and we went and we completed the check ride. Now, my point is, in a flight training situation, as an instructor, would you have let him go that far? And I think most of you would say, no, you wouldn't. You would have told him, hey, the chocks are still in. And and that's fine. I mean, I get it. I mean, you're under a time crunch. You got another flight in 2 hours or whatever. Um, but uh, do you think this guy learned a lot more by embarrassing himself a little bit? I think he did. I
For
think he did.
sure.
I think he came back in and probably as he's sitting around with people telling check ride stories, he's going to be able to say, well, you're never going to believe what I did on my check ride. And everybody's going to get a laugh out of it, but he's never going to forget those shocks again. I guarantee he will never forget that.
No question. And I want to say it's less than 5 days ago where I was pulling out next to a low wing aircraft. CFI just sat down, chocks are in it, and I stop and I know they're in a hurry. I know they want to go. I just pulled up and said, "Hey, just want to let you know your instructor's trying to teach you a lesson, and I'm going to save you both a lot of headache." And the instructor gets out and goes and pulls the chalks out. He had no clue, by the way, trust me. And he knows who he is if he's listening. But I said, I know you were going to teach him a lesson, but I thought I'd save y'all about 5 minutes and a little bit of avgas. So I thought I would let you know that those were still on the front tire. Now, in the low wing for CFI, if they're not paying real close attention, they might not have visual ease. A Cessna's a lot easier because the wheel's exposed when you're standing there, but that low wing could block you off. And today we had a very similar example. Winds were tough. Stage check, 8 o'clock, first thing this morning. I think I heard the instructor ask them maybe 17 times before they left the training area, "Are you sure you want to go? Pretty windy. You sure you want to go?" And they went out there and they burnt about point 0.7 worth of avgas and didn't get anything accomplished. As I saw him try to help that person make the decision, but ultimately they didn't make the right one and they went and it was just undoable. I think there's a million things, but let's talk about 6 to 10 of these things, right? I think if a CFI during flight training is thinking about fuel reserves. I think they're thinking about the weather well beyond what the local airport is. I think they're thinking about where can we land in this practice area 50 times a minute compared to what the student's thinking. NOTAMs, airspace restrictions. I mean, how many times do you think flight instructors are pushing the nose down in Houston to not break the Bravo shelves, Wally?
Yeah, probably a lot.
All the time. As students are task saturated, right? And you're gonna be by yourself. You're gonna have your wife. You're gonna have these on your own. And then I think it's things like personal minimums. The CFI has his or hers. You probably aren't even thinking about yours. Your personal minimums are you with me. Well, the day after you get that certificate, that can't be your personal minimums. You're gonna have to define those yourselves. And then it's kind of currency and proficiency, right? We might have a certificate in our wallet, Wally, but there's a big gap between being certified and proficient. And I think the CFIs are thinking about that all the time. Not so much is the student, maybe not all of you, but that's our mindset for today's show. What do you think? How well do you think, and you do it, how well do your applicants handle the unexpected?
Not not very well, what's funny, what's really funny is we might take off on a we start the check rides usually, in the cross country phase. Okay, we're gonna go to wherever we're going to, and, maybe the scenario that I've been given for the last couple weeks, couple months, we end up going a certain way and we divert to a different airport. Well, they may already plug in that different airport into the GPS. So they're already planning on diverting to airport ABC. And, of course, I see that. Well, guess what?
We ain't going there.
Going to be we're not going to ABC. We're definitely not going to ABC. We're going to DEF today. And sometimes they'll tell me, "Well, I wasn't I wasn't expecting that." And I'm not well, maybe I'm stupid, but I'm not that stupid to know that when I leave a flight school after a check ride, that the applicant is not descended upon by all the flight instructors or other students. The guy, maybe I'm at the same flight school 2 days in a row and I'm doing a private today, I'm doing a private tomorrow. If I'm the private who's going tomorrow, I'm gonna I'm gonna find that guy that just took a check ride today and say, "What do you have you do?" I'm I'm gonna do that. So,
Amen.
I know that happens, but, we're probably gonna do something different. So, I don't know. Maybe don't let your DPE know that you have an idea of what you're gonna do.
Yeah, I'll let the cat out of the bag. There could be a little bit of a gouge database somewhere in Houston, Texas about what you do or don't do, but I've never seen
Right.
it, Wally. I've never
Right.
seen it.
Yeah.
The unexpected on a check ride or with your instructor is really simulated and quite often not as shocking as something that might happen in real life. And the unexpected is not always an engine failure. I think actually it's probably very rare an engine failure. It's going to be the chocks were left on. It's going to be I left the tail tied down. It's going to be it's not I took a night flight. I don't have my flashlight. It can be so minuscule, but still so critical to the stage of flight or the stage of the thing that you're doing that you need a piece of equipment or something, and it's going to be all you. If you don't have your flashlight, your instructor probably has one. And in
Yeah.
the world of what happens after your check ride, it's very, very different. I challenge all of you out there that are training in whatever phase of training you're in, try to break free of your instructor. Make them an observer. Make them a DPE from day one of whatever you're doing. Yes, they're going to teach. Yes, they're going to correct. But tell them to quit touching things. Don't touch it. Don't fix it. Let me go as far as you feel comfortable letting me go to make me a better pilot. The
Uh,
unexpected is very different when you don't have someone to fix it for you.
yeah, and here's one for the CFIs. If you've listened to this podcast or if you've taken a check ride with me, one of my passions is electrical failures. And so, especially in a Cessna, I will say, okay, this time around for this landing, we're going to have simulated electrical failure. So it's going to be a no flap approach and landing. Here's another element to an electrical failure. In an electrical failure, you're going to lose the intercom. And I'll ask students, I'll ask instructors of your 65 hours of flight time, how much of that time has been spent with the headset off trying to talk to your instructor? And I believe I don't think I've ever had anybody say that they have done that. Never, zero, nada. That means nobody. And that's a big awakening in an electrical failure. Obviously, you're going to lose all your radios, everything electric in the airplane, but you're going to lose that intercom. So why not, instructors? Why not someday when you're out in the practice area? Why don't we say, for the next 10 minutes, we're going to take the headsets off and we're just going to communicate to each other this way, just by talking, because you gotta, oh, yeah, I won't say scream, but almost scream. Why not? Also, of course, in an electrical failure, you will lose the intercom. You're going to lose all your radios. But what if you just had a failure of the intercom system? Maybe your radio still works, but the intercom doesn't work. Do we know where that hand mic is? Do we have a hand mic in the airplane? Can we use the hand mic? Is it in the seat pocket of the seat next to you? Do you need to plug it in? And this is something that pretty much nobody ever knows.
Yeah, and they would when it happens, the unexpected, they're gonna wish they would have had that experience for sure.
Right, right,
The other recognizing decision point that I think we talk about it a lot, I think we try to teach it a lot, but I don't think you get the real chance to experience it until you are a rated pilot and you have the opportunity to make a decision like this is proficiency. I know we've done tons of episodes and tons of talking points about this, but man, the first time it's your time to take your wife and kids or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever on a trip at night, and you haven't flown in, let's call it 89 days, should you? I don't
right,
know. I think a lot of
right,
people think it's no big deal, but man, there's some tricks that your eyes will play. There is some skills. I mean, do you have to be an instrument rated pilot? Not in Houston, it's too bright here, but if you're not in Houston, it might be tough to fly at night. If you don't have a lot of land lights, you don't have a skyline like Houston does. And judging your proficiency, man, Wally, I'm a 52-year-old man who has a big ego. I don't like to judge myself. I just think I'm the best in the world. And it's hard for me to reflect on should I or shouldn't I go. It's a
right,
tough, tough decision.
right. right, and most of the time in a scenario like that, most of the time, the flight is not a, "Hey, we need to go tonight." It's, "Hey, let's go do this, let's go for a flight next week," or something like that. So you really have the opportunity, most likely, to go out and get some proficiency going.
Well, I do own a flight school and I have plenty of people around, man. I probably fly with an instructor at least a couple of hours before any big trip. I just want to be pushed. I want my proficiency to be there. I do not want to be my worst at my worst day. I want to be
Right.
my best on my worst day. And I can't be that if I haven't done a forward slip in 6 months. I can't do that if I haven't had any partial panel work. I need all of that to be the best that it can be, or I'm just not going to be there. Right. Um,
Yeah.
let's jump to part two, tools for better decision making. You know, there's a few acronyms we use. I think everyone knows PAVE. I think DECIDE is another good acronym that we can use. Um, how many applicants post check ride day, Wally, do you think really sit down with a sheet of paper and kind of write out PAVE?
Probably not many at all, and, I will say this at my airline, at United Airlines, every flight starts with a well, we brief in a flight planning area, but we get to the airplane and, we do a briefing where we actually, brief the actual takeoff that we're about to do, but the first part of it is we talk about threats. And the first thing on the threats part of our briefing is personal. How's everybody doing? Did you sleep well last night? If it's a red eye, did you get a good nap today? Just how's everybody doing? And then we talk about the technical aspect of things. How's the airplane? Do we have anything that's inoperative on the airplane? How's the airport? Are all the lighting working? And then we talk about environmental, hey, we got mountains out there, we got weather, we got this. So every one of our takeoffs, every one of our flights, I should say, starts with that. And that's basically pave.
Yeah, I think the key is that, and I've seen I've seen a coworker of yours has a on his ID badge on the back of it is kind of like these, I don't know how many bullets, maybe 6 bullets, but I have seen this very thing. I have a picture of this very thing, right? And
Yeah,
anyone who doesn't go through it is not applying the regulations. I mean, pre-flight
right,
actions is required. I mean,
right.
you get ramp checked and you don't have a weight balance, you're in trouble, no question
Yeah,
asked, right?
yeah,
But the most important thing is, are you fit to fly? Are you ready to
right,
go? Do you, the
right.
pilot, you, the airplane, you, the environment, you, the external pressures? That is PAVE. And I just
Yeah,
can't stress enough um, that it's critical that you make those decisions because we are so dependent on our instructor doing that for us early on. Again, if you're listening to this episode and you're a 4,000-hour pilot, maybe you are good at all this, but we're talking to the 60 to 90-hour graduate of a private program. If you're not doing something to make these decisions every time you go, you're taking risks that you shouldn't be taking. They might ultimately Swiss cheese you into a really, really, really bad spot.
yeah, yeah.
Next one.
And oh,
Go ahead.
going back to that, we, at United Airlines, we beginning 4 hours before our scheduled departure time, when we open up our EFB, our iPad, we have to click on something that we have to declare fit for duty. We have to click on this thing and say, "Yep, I'm ready to go." And are there times that you forget? Yeah, there are, and it might be 45 minutes before departure. You'll get a message from our dispatch that says, "Hey, the captain or the first officer has not declared fit for duty." And then, "Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry about that." And you go in and take care of it. But it is a physical thing. I mean, we have to click that button. It's kinda like agreeing to terms and service like you do on, you go to a lot of websites.
The other thing I think, under the tools for better decision making is that an instructor for so long has been the person that has had the what if mindset. Like, what if we're on the go and we have a flat tire? What if we are in the pattern and we have some catastrophic failure with the engine? What if, what if, what if, what if? How do you, as a young pilot, I'm asking the audience, what are you doing to have the what if scenario? I had a great Vision Jet trip last week to Colorado. Love that damn plane. Have a ton of fun flying it. But it's one of those things that I have a better emergency briefing in the Vision Jet with a second pilot who's helping me be proficient and good than I probably do when my wife's next to me in the Top Hawk, right? Because she's not a pilot. She's not gonna do much. I have it in my own brain, but man, when we're on in that Vision Jet, my briefing in the Vision Jet is something like this. I say, look, if we're on the ground, we're gonna abort. If anything happens, I hear a noise, anything, I'm gonna abort. The wheels come off the ground, plenty of runway remaining, we're gonna land right in front of us. The second we put the gear up, if we're out of runway, we're gonna be committed. If there's still runway, I'm gonna put the gear down and land right in front of us. Once we're out of runway, I'm looking for 600 feet AGL so I can call out caps is available, caps being the parachute. At 600 feet, we have that as an option. We're going to continue to climb and go straight forward. At above 1,500 feet, we're going to talk about it if we have an emergency, but I am going to declare an emergency under any of these circumstances, and I'm going to declare you pilot in command. I don't have the number of hours the guy next to me has. He's going to be better than me. She's going to be better than me if she's a female, and I shouldn't be pilot in command. But we talk about it before we even get to the whole short line. That conversation's been had, and it's in my brain. And when we're on the go, we know what we're going to do at on the ground. We know we're going to do it 1 foot. We know we're going to do it 500 feet. We know we're going to do it 600 feet and above 600 feet. But we're going no matter what. And I don't do that probably as rigorous with other people in the plane that aren't pilots. But if you're not thinking about it as a single engine, single pilot operations, you're crazy because any of those things could happen. You might not have a parachute, but you need to know what you're going to do. And I think Pat, who's been on this show a few times, hates the mindset of at 1,000 feet, I'm turning back. Man,
Oh, yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
always the best decision. Now,
Yeah.
at 1,000 feet in a Cessna, do you have options? Yes, but turning back's not always going to be realistic. I might turn right because there's a golf course. I might turn left because there's a forest to my right and there's a field to my left, right? But think about it. Say it to yourself, talk it out loud because I can assure you your instructor's been doing it every time that you've taken off and you didn't know it. So the what if, the scenario-based stuff is super, super important. And the third part of this section, tools for better decision making, is how do you use tech and how do you use the tech wisely? Um, I'm sure you have a million stories, Wally. I wanted to tee it up without laughing, but how many times has the GPS or the technology in the airplane caused the failure, not the pilot?
A lot. A lot.
Is your heart
And
broke for those people? Do you just
it
like,
is. It is. And, where it is really frustrating is, somebody's coming in to get a multi-engine rating, and, maybe they're not extremely familiar with the avionics in this particular multi-engine airplane, and they go out and they actually do the multi-engine stuff fairly well, and we come in for the instrument approach, which is gonna be a single engine approach, by the way, we all know that, but, w and they can't set the approach up using the equipment in the airplane. It's unsat, but it's kind of a maybe not a multi-engine thing, more so than it is uh, using the equipment in the airplane thing.
yeah. And it just goes back to so many other episodes, so many other things. You got to know it. And you're think of the real world scenario where there could be a problem, single engine, if you don't know how to do that and you're in the clouds. Assuming this is an instrument rated applicant, they're getting a multi engine rating, and then they're going to want to go time build. They might have someone who has one less hour than them next to them in a different multi engine aircraft. Like, man, what a bad day that would be. What a bad day. So use tech wisely. If you don't know the tech, practice it. There's plenty of simulators out there. There's plenty of other things you can use. Make sure
Well,
the tech isn't what gets you.
yeah, and another thing that I see a lot and, way too often, most of the airplanes that we're flying, uh, are 100-knot airplanes, and they burn about 10 gallons an hour. So, I ask my applicant, what's the distance to where we're going? I'll say 260 miles. So right off the bat, 260 divided by 100 is 2.6, and that's 2 hours and 36 minutes. I'll ask them what their flight time is. I'll say, hour 41. Wow. Okay. How much fuel are we going to burn? Uh, 20, 24.8. I go, okay, well, and in my mind, I'm thinking, well, the 24.8 makes sense for the 260 miles, but the hour 41 or whatever I said doesn't make sense. So you gotta check for reasonableness. If it smells like fish, it probably is fish. So, and I will say to them, I'll say, wow, hour 41, we must have a really good tailwind. Well, that's what ForeFlight gave me. Well,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Is that really
Bitten
what?
by the four-flight bug.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
real risk, and it's a real problem, I think, nowadays because we have become so dependent on those things, and we don't know that how bad the data in, data out really is in that scenario for sure.
Yeah.
Jumping to part 3, learning from real incidents and stories. Hopefully, you've listened to the Paul Craig episodes. Hopefully, you've listened to the Killing Zone. And if you aren't a fan, you're crazy. It's good material. At the end of the day, let's tell a few good stories, Wally. Where have you seen, whether it was your daughters, whether it was other pilots, whether it was applicants, where have you seen good decision making? Like today, I think you were scheduled to be a UFS all day, and you didn't do any check rides.
Right.
Were any of those decisions horrible decisions?
No, they're great decisions.
It
And
was a clear day, though, Wally. It's crystal clear. It was clear to 10 million. Why didn't you fly?
yeah, well, it was real clear because that air was up there moving around and it was moving really fast. I've got a down fence in my backyard to prove that. Um, yeah, and both the applicants, we communicated obviously, and it was 2 multi-engine rides, so they were more advanced, and I wouldn't have done a check ride in today's winds. A training flight, maybe, but certainly not a check ride.
And look, I know both these people. I'm close with both these people. You know how bad they wanted to go? I mean, mentally, how bad they want this to get over with, how hard they've worked to achieve this. And they made all the right decisions because it's not a good day to go. And it
Right.
wasn't an easy decision. External pressures, bang, 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 get this done. You know, you've flown in this before, you can do it. Bang, 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 go. But man, really, really good decisions. What about, um, have you ever, I guess I'm thinking this real time, so forgive me if it catches you off guard. Have you ever got into a plane to let this person make their own decision and thought, if he tries to rotate, I'm not letting him rotate or her rotate because it was so
Uh,
windy, the weather was so bad around you, whatever?
yeah, no, I don't recall ever doing that. I do recall, an applicant taking off with a pitot tube cover on, and, uh, and we took off, um, and, it was a pretty good
What was
learning
your
experience.
airspeed?
It was 0. It was 0, and he called it. He said, "Hey, the airspeed's not working," and next thing I know, we're flying, and I kinda went, "Wow, okay, well, that's very interesting." We did have an airplane that had a GPS, so we had ground speed, but, of course, the check ride was immediately unsatisfactory, but, I did point out to him that we can look at our ground speed now and then look at our ground speed on downwind and kind of do some mental math and kind of figure out, if we have any winds or anything. But yeah, I mean that was a poor decision.
So real incidents are going to happen, from my stories about seatbelts hanging out of the door to anything you can possibly imagine, from losing a cylinder to having carb ice to anything else. You have to understand that these incidents, maybe small, maybe big, are going to happen. One story I tell, and I don't think I told it much on this one, the podcast, but I was on my third or fourth solo, really close to getting done, and the shimmy dampener, which is a small little cylinder on a Cessna that kind of keeps the front wheel centered, had clearly seen its life expectancy. And as I pushed the throttle in full, the front wheel was wobbling. If you've ever seen a motorcycle have the wobbles or anything like that, and it wanted the plane to go left, which in this scenario, in this time frame, I was on the small runway all by myself, and it was going right towards the water, Wally. And I thought, oh my gosh, I gotta abort. And I aborted, and I thought I made the best decision ever. And I came back, and my wife's like, oh my God, you can't fly anymore. This is too dangerous. And I said, no, each of these incidents are making me better. These are not huge catastrophic things, but what do you think? As a pilot now, back pressure means so much more to me than it did prior to the wobbles on that flight. A little bit of more back pressure still shouldn't have gone without a shimmy dampener that was working correctly, but a little bit of back pressure takes all that weight off that wheel and takes the shimmy out of it.
Right.
I wouldn't have known that had I had not had this problem and someone taught me that. You have to experience some of these things. Don't go out there and
Yeah.
try and make them happen, but
Yeah.
man, each of these little real world incidents, everything you experience as a pilot by yourself will make you a better pilot.
Yeah, I remember flying a twin Cessna. I don't remember what version it was, a 414, I think. And taking off, and right as we took off, I heard a big pop. Literally heard a pop. And of course, I'm looking at engine instruments and everything's fine. The airplane's flying just fine. So I continued. The guy was trying to sell the airplane, and I flew it about 100 miles away. I put the gear down. I went in and landed, and as soon as that nose wheel touched down, I figured out what it was. We'd flown a nose wheel tire on takeoff, and they tell me that you're more likely to blow a tire on takeoff than you are on landing. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, and now hindsight being 2020, first of all, I would not have raised the gear, and I wouldn't have continued. I would have come around to my home airport. Luckily, they had maintenance at the other airport, and they had a tire, and we had the airplane fixed in, uh, no time, really. It wasn't an issue at all. But, I had a young man on a check ride the other day. We did a landing. I think it was a short field landing, and, he put it down, and he thought it was a very, very hard landing. It wasn't. I mean, I've been in a lot worse, but, he said, "Oh, we need to go check. I think I blew the nose tire." And I let him, we went and we checked. We shut the airplane down. He got out and looked at it and came back, and he said, "Well, no, I obviously didn't blow it." And I told him, I said, "Look, if you blow a nose tire, there is no question. I mean, that
Mhm.
airplane, I mean, you know it. You know
You
it."
can't
So,
steer it, you can't move it,
yeah,
it's tough.
probably if you're thinking, "Did I blow a nose tire?" You probably didn't. But he did the safe thing. He went and checked it out, and, we finished the check ride, and it was a satisfactory outcome.
Awesome. Well, hopefully all of you are successful on your next check ride. Hopefully, if you're a private student and you're about to take that check ride, you have big plans to do fun things with your flying capabilities beyond just starting your instrument rating. You'll get the chance to meet Wally at some point in the future for your instrument, no matter what, but go do some real world flying. Go learn how to make the judgments and the decisions that you need to make to be a better pilot. We talked about decision points. We talked about better decision making, and we talked about real incidents and real stories today that will make you a better pilot. Experience is what you need, and experience will make you a great pilot. As always, thanks for listening, and stay behind the prop.
Thanks for checking out the Behind the Prop podcast. Be sure to click subscribe and check us out online at BehindTheProp.com. Behind the Prop is recorded in Houston, Texas. Creator and host is Bobby Doss. Co-host is Wally Mulhern. The show is for entertainment purposes only and is not meant to replace actual flight instruction. Thanks for listening, and remember, fly safe.